is Tony from her Homestead Skills, and I guess to encourage some of you to look at some means and ways of stocking up some food for the near term and perhaps long-term storage. Most of my preps are for near term, which I consider anywhere from 1 to 2 years. I have never ever to date preserved for long term, which is 10, 15, 20 years. I don't know if I'm going to live that long anyway. But perhaps it is time to even start to look at some of those methods. And for long term, one of the most common methods is to get yourself a 5-gallon bucket, get Mylar bags and a sealer, and put up bags of rice and beans and any other dry staple that you can put into a 5-gallon bucket. I mean, things like wheat, berries, and popcorn, even grains of all kinds. There are many things that you can put up long term in 5-gallon buckets. So, but as I said, most of my canning has been done for what I call near term, which is season to season. That's the way I've always preserved my foods. And of course, each season you want to make sure that you have enough to roll into the next season, and perhaps for failure of some of your crops, or not the ability not to get some of them the year after. So once again, there are so many different methods, so many different ways, and some foods are better done one method, others are better done another method, and I have tried numerous ones. And like things like my rutabaga, I tried canning them and they were horrible. So rutabaga I only blanch and freeze now, and they taste just as good as fresh that way. So there is sometimes a learning curve. But let's start with the simplest thing, and I have put out a video on what is the simplest method of storing up food, and that would be to go out and purchase anything on the shelf that you normally eat. You know, canned goods, dry goods, cereals, pasta, flour, salt, pepper, sugar, any of those dry goods and canned goods that you can get your hands on. Canned meats, tunas, chicken, salmon, any of those things. That is probably the easiest way to start to prep if you don't have any other means. And I have had many people tell me, I'm not in a position to, I don't have the space, I don't have the funds, I don't have. Well, let me tell you, it's a lot of things I don't have either. The good Lord decided that for some reason I had to sell my home, and that was about 4 or 5 years ago. I was hoping to get into a home long ago again, and I have not been able to. So I really don't have a garden of my own. I have to rent one. I was fortunate enough that immediately upon selling my home, I found a place to garden. It was better than not having my own, but not quite the same. And at least I get to garden still. And don't have the storage space that I used to have. I used to have a full cold cellar, and I used to be able to cure sausages in my cold cellar. I used to be able to store things like turnips and winter squash, vegetables, and potatoes without having to do anything. I would just put them down there and make sure that they were not on the cold concrete off the floor. And other than that, they lasted for a while. I would, be able to store food that way. I also preserved food in jars. And today, I, once again, don't have that luxury. I wish I did, and I hope to again in the future, but reality is what it is today, so I make do with what I have. I have probably the least expensive dehydrator you can get, but it does the job. I think you can buy one of those for around $50. So, not your top of the line, wonderful dehydrator, but as I say, it does the job. I don't own a freeze dryer. I'd love to be able to process foods that way, but I neither have the funds for that right now, nor do I have the space to keep one. So, no freeze dryer. On the other hand, I do have what today is a very expensive unit to process tomatoes that my mother bought me. Probably 20 years ago now. I think she paid somewhere in the range of $200 and change for that machine, and today that thing is worth approximately $700. Very expensive. So yes, we have some things and we don't have others. Now, I also don't have a dedicated water bath canner. I never found a need for one. Once you have your pressure canner, you can use that big pot that you would normally do pressure canning in and do water bath canning in that as well. So rather than having two distinct pots, I use the one pot for both jobs if I need something that size. If I don't need one that size, I go to one of my largest pots, which are quite a bit smaller than my canner. My canner is a Presto 26 quart pressure canner, and it will hold 7 quart jars and I believe 9-ish, maybe 2 layers of 9 pint jars. So yeah, it's a little different. Our pint jars are not pints, they're slightly bigger than the ball jars that you get in the US, which are 2 cups exactly. Ours is 500 ml, which is just slightly bigger. So there's less of them that could fit into that canner than a ball jar. Oh well, that's okay. There's still plenty of room for plenty of jars in that canner. So yeah, 7 quart jars can be processed at one time, and you do need a pressure canner for many things, for what is considered a low acid food, like meat and a lot of vegetables. Absolutely require a pressure canner. I understand that there are people who have water bathed in the past, everything, and they have perhaps water bath items that we today only pressure can, and they have done it for longer terms. I don't know of how to do that, therefore I would never recommend something I don't understand myself. I believe in Europe that is still done that way quite a bit, but we don't have the skill set here, and if we do, it's very rare. So pressure canning is recommended for your meats, for your things like potatoes, and a lot of your low acid foods. Water bath canning, very common for things that you're going to pickle. Anything that is a vinaigrette, you can water bath can. You can water bath can jams and jellies, and even tomato sauce you can water bath can. Today they highly recommend that you add a little bit of acid to that tomato. Personally, I find tomatoes are acidic enough myself, but that's neither here nor there. We've never added the extra acid, but today they are recommending that for safety, and if you feel you need to, I would say go for it. Always be safe, always be comfortable with what you're doing. If you are not comfortable pressure canning, don't do it. Either that or attempt to do it and get over your fear, because it is definitely scary the first time, admittedly so. But today's pressure canners, especially the one that I have, the model that I have, which is an inexpensive pressure canner. The Presto is probably one of the least expensive on the market, but they also have a built-in safety valve, a little rubber bit that pops out should there be any issue and releases all the pressure. So they're really nothing to be afraid of the way they perhaps used to be. Now, I'm talking pressure canners, I'm not talking pressure cookers. They are two distinct items. Although you can use your pressure canner as a pressure cooker, it's not the other way around. Okay, other means of storing food. You have your water bath canning, you have your pressure canning, you have your buying from the store, you have dehydrating, which can be done very inexpensively. You have pickling and fermenting. Now, I do a lot of pickling and fermenting, and that's usually when the vegetables are fresh in the fall. Things like especially cabbage and cucumbers. I make a ton of pickles, and they are just awesome, and always ferment. I have attempted to can pickles in the past, never liked the results. Some people say add alum, some people say add an oak leaf, some people say whatever. The only time I've had absolutely perfect results, and the only thing that I will ever do to make pickles is ferment, and they are just absolutely awesome that way. So, easy to do. Fermenting is probably one of the easiest. You can use any mason jar, and salt. I mean, it's basically salt and water. Okay, so that is one of the easiest things to do. Now, you can also do things like curing meats. Now, I can't do that anymore, so I can't show you how it's done. Normally, in February here, in Ontario, we would purchase a pork, I believe it's shoulder, I'm not sure now. But anyway, we would purchase some pork, and we would make homemade sausages, and there's 2 batches we can do. We can put some in the freezer, like we can vacuum seal and put them in the freezer, and that's about all I can do with them right now. And the other thing is to cure them, and to cure them we would just hang them to dry. And when they have dried to a certain level, I would take them and scrub every one of them clean with water, not soap, just water and a scrub brush, and clean the skins and let them dry on a towel. And then I would pack them either in vacuum seal bags or in mason jars with oil. And both ways preserve the sausages to not let them dry any further, because otherwise they would still continue to dry and then they would get too hard. So that is something, as I said, that I cannot show you how to do because I don't have the facilities anymore, but that is one thing that can be done. Another thing is smoking meats. I don't have the means or the ability to do that either, so I can't show you that, but I'm sure that there are places where you can learn how to do that should you want to do it. The other thing is freeze-dried. Freeze-drying is becoming extremely popular, and I understand why, but it's still very expensive. Units are expensive, and they do take up a lot of space. I don't think that they're any more expensive to run than a dehydrator. At least I've been informed that such is the case. But they do need dedicated space, and they are not inexpensive units. So if you can buy one, more power to you. Awesome. Go ahead and do it. Okay. I guess the most important thing to take away from this is that you may not like one method, you may like another. You may only do water bath canning, and most of us start off water bath canning and eventually decide that we want to do pressure canning as well. You may just want to blanch and freeze things and put them in your freezer, and that works quite well if you have the freezer space. And if your electrical is fairly stable. So, many methods of preserving food, stocking up on food, and as I say, the least disruptive perhaps would be just to go out and buy prepared foods, and that's, anyone can do that. Whether it's buying 2 cans a week that you put in your cupboard, it can be done, okay? So I hope that this was beneficial. Anyway, this is Tony from her Homestead Skills. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we will catch you on the next one. Bye for now.